That's my brother Troy. Together we are the GenXTransplantBros, as we've been calling ourselves over the last couple of years, since Troy himself got a liver transplant after I did the same back in 2019. And so we've talked a lot about that already. I've talked about my story up till about the time of transplant. Troy's shared his. We did part one and part two. You'll see those flying by throughout the episode if you want to click on them. They're also at our regular YouTube channel. You can see them on there. So what we're going to do today, though, is I want us to first show that we can actually pull off doing a live, even though probably I assume we're the only two here. That's another thing. We're going to have to figure out how to see if there's people chatting for the future. But for today, what we want to do is I'd like us to talk about a situation that maybe doesn't enter into everybody, well, it does to some degree, but recovery from substance misuse when it comes to people that also had to, go through the process, not had to, but people that underwent the liver transplant, liver failure and all that. And so, Troy, I know that you've shared a lot about this already, so we're not going to rehash all of that. I just want to briefly recap something that Troy did point out, that he drank after knowing he was sick, as did I to some degree, but he took it a little further because he was already getting drained and things like this. We'll talk more. You can see these other videos on that. But then came a time when he realized, oh my gosh, this is serious, and then stopped drinking. And so for myself, what happened was that on that day, 2010, on February 15th, when they said for the first time you have 6 months to live to 3 years, I literally threw everything out the window. I mean, I didn't go back to work. I mean, I quit everything. I almost went vegan overnight. It was just such a departure from what I knew was reality that I figured that anything was going on out there, I obviously was clueless because this was not normal and my life was going fabulous up until literally the day before. And so then it was a long process. It took 9 years almost for mine to go through. And so drinking and drugs and all that was never, ever remotely a thought. Because, I mean, especially with the hepatic encephalopathy, Troy, you experienced that too. That's what people refer to as wet brain. That's when you get fogged up brain because the ammonia in your head is built up because your liver is not able to process the toxins in the right way. And that's not exactly how it is, but more or less, it kicks it into your bloodstream then, and somehow ammonia happens. That causes confusion, and it's all kinds of really weird confusion too. It's like psychedelic, but not fun. It's just not fun. Trying, I hear that sound. It's like the worst thing to think of. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the worst state.
That was horrible.
And so from that perspective, the last thing I was going to try to do was, because I knew there was no way to escape this reality like that. The only thing that was going to be doing, one thing that would only do for me, had it even entered my mind, would only make me less confused and maybe sicker. And so for me, and then a weird thing, and I know I'm babbling here at the beginning, but I want to get all this out of the way for me because I'm about to say something that is interesting. For as long as I drank and as much as I drank and all of that I ended up going into counseling as a counselor during the time I was sick, because I was invited to speak at a recovery group about what it was like to not drink. And that led to me becoming a recovery coach, to me becoming a drug and alcohol counselor. And so to some degree, though I never actually went to drug and alcohol counseling at all, really. I mean, I met Larry Walton like 2 times and the whole thing started. He's the owner of Recovery Cafe, the guy I eventually went to work for, just to see how I was doing with that drastic news. And he also knew me. There was a loose connection because of UGA Sports, the sports community in Athens, Georgia, where I was living, blah, blah, blah. So I never went through drug and alcohol counseling, and so I became a counselor. And so to this day, I kind of think that by virtue of being in the field of counseling, I've received my counseling. It's in my life constantly, but from the other angle. So for me, it was a departure on so many high-risk behaviors involving those kinds of substances. And so all that out of the way, Troy, you didn't have the long experience. Your fogginess era wasn't detected early enough. And then by the time it was really bad, how long between the time you stopped drinking and the transplant list era began and transplant? That was a pretty tight window, wasn't it?
Yeah, very tight. It wasn't even a year. It was 8 months, maybe 7 months.
And during that time, Did they refer you to go see a counselor or AA or anything like that?
They wanted to make sure I was sober for a year before I did that, and I think I'd talked to you several times as a counselor.
Kind of, yeah. Well, here, let's talk on that. It's funny you mentioned that because I actually still have that recording.
Well,
At the time, I was doing drug and alcohol evaluations as part of being a counselor. And so, as not a counselor, as literally as his brother, I was in Mexico City at the time, and I got a call from our sister saying, Troy, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I basically took you through what would be like a drug and alcohol evaluation. And it was a complete train wreck, as you can imagine. And I don't mean that to be sarcastic or anything, but I mean, look, you're talking about a person that has been drinking for decades and is now facing liver failure. So, I mean, that's way beyond what I do anyway. I do these very low level DUI offense type, low level minor possession, little bit of dependency type stuff, but not even into the really hardcore stuff anymore anyway. And I'm losing my train of thought here on all that, Troy. But so, how did you demonstrate you were sober if you did it in less than a year?
I think I was getting blood tested every week, or
Yeah, you would have been.
it was unbelievable amount. So they knew that I wasn't drinking probably because of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Were you doing? I was doing like it was like every Tuesday I had to give 12 vials. I mean, there was 12 vials of blood.
Oh yeah, it was it. Well, I used to be hemophobic before this. Now,
Yeah.
not anymore.
Oh no, it got to the point with me where you've heard me mention this that they were collapsing veins. They hit the same ones. So I'd be like, no, back of the hand, and then I just stick it out there, you know, no problem. You know, I'd be like, okay, right here. You know, I was way over needles. But yeah, and you know, the name of my book, This Is How It Feels to Heal, that actually came from a needle experience. There was a time
Wow.
they had collapsed one so many. It was one of these times where I'd had like both my arms. They couldn't do it, and they were on back of my hands, and it was not a very skilled nurse or whatever guy, whatever it was, and that it was not it was a painful one. And then I remember thinking to myself, this is pain, this hurts, this hurts. Then I thought to myself, this person's not trying to hurt me. They're only trying to get my information out of me through my blood so that they can help me live through this thing. And this is how it feels to heal. And that's where I came up with the name of the book.
That's pretty good.
It was in a chair in VA in Athens, Georgia, the CBOC.
What color was the chair?
Everything was not OD green. I don't know. It's probably government standard gray. I
I
don't know.
remember that every
Well,
week.
yeah,
Yellow
you
chair.
get happy colors. We're the VA. You don't get happy colors.
Olive drab.
Drab. Exactly. In a canteen cup. At any rate, so let's talk more about that then. So, how did you feel? I mean, this is a weird question. Did you have any cravings for alcohol during that time?
Actually, I did not
Right.
at all. I really thought this is the end. I'm done.
Right.
And I didn't, that's a weird question. I never thought about that, but no, I did not have any cravings for anything
I know.
at
And
all.
what makes that even more interesting to me, particularly, is that when you look at the neural pathways part of cravings and dependencies, you know, you have the two sides. You have the cognitive side, which is our feeling we want to be comfortable in all these ways that we sort of reach our dopamine that way. And then we have the actual physical way it happens in our body where we develop neural pathways to make these things flow through our brain faster. So the more we do them, the faster they flow. We literally make little highways. And so when when you're no longer doing that your body's saying, why is that little river empty now? That's called a craving. Of course, you also have it going on up here. I feel bad. So the two are working against each other. You know, this is one by, maybe I'll share this here, but in the two different treatment programs that I've written on this topic, both of these are termed the battle of two minds because you only have one brain, but the two minds, the sort of reflective brain and our mind, and then the survival mind. So anyway, in your situation, though, it sort of goes counter to all of those kind of teachings because here you had this wide open craving that had been a channel of alcohol. You know, sorry to put it like this, but it was with me too. Channel of alcohol, and then boom, nothing. And your body didn't say a peep about it. Interesting.
It was kind of weird. it got to the point I think I couldn't drink water. I couldn't hold anything in because I got so huge.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's interesting. I never thought about that, but yeah, just the craving was just completely gone.
Right. I mean, the not literally back to the neural pathways thing. I'm just going to use the word pathway again. The path that we used to get to relief was not an available road anymore.
No.
I mean, we weren't even in the same continent anymore. The roads are not even the same, you know. I mean, this isn't even, we're flying now. We're not even on the ground. So it's like, so yeah, we're not going to be talking about missing Anheuser-Busch right now. But now let's fast forward to this. It's been how long since transplant?
Let's see. 3/23/23 was when I got my transplant. Well, when I got the phone call. That's the easy one to remember. Same forward as backwards, so a year and a half, I guess.
323?
2 years.
323, 23?
2.5 years.
Did you say 323?
Yeah, 3/23/23.
You want to know a really side joke here? My okay, I didn't mention this. All right, my third wife. The way that I remembered our anniversary, because it was on 3/23, and it was how many times Michael Jordan had retired. He was number 23. He retired 3 times.
That's
So it's also now with your transplant. Yeah, weird way to remember things. So, but my question, okay, so now, first off, how do you feel like these days, post-transplant?
I feel great. I think the heart, I don't know, it's like a completely different life. I drink so much that it's hard to understand. It's hard to, like, what is this? You know, I don't, like, what do I do now?
What does
I
everybody
still
else
have
do
friends
during the
that
day?
drink. I have friends that drink, and I talk to them to the point where I'm like, all right, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, you know, on that topic, hanging out with the friends that still drink, that is, for me, fine in some settings, but I don't like the whole idea of we're going to like a party at somebody's house
Yeah.
where now we're going to be there till like midnight. And so it's not so much, it's not temptation, I'm not, or anything, and we're not talking about that part. The part that gets iffy is listening to the same stupid stories over and over.
Yep.
Because they're the same ones we've all heard, and
And they've told him several times that
Exact-
night itself.
that too, right? So I mean, you've heard them tell this 4 different times, and so and plus you know it because you were there, you know,
then
or whatever.
Favorite ones are the alcohol love. Yeah. I
yeah.
love you, man.
Oh yeah, that's the best
Best friend ever.
one. Exactly. Well, I mean, see, if you want to go back to the way this all works in our mind, what happens when we take these drugs? It relieves us of those pains and stressors that we have, and allows another path to dopamine. So now we feel good. So what happens is, say I have a hang up about I don't think I'm, you know, other people don't think I'm a real man. I'm very prone to getting beer muscles. Because as soon as I drink beer, I'm going to lose that fear that I'm not good enough, and I'm going to try to overcompensate. And that's where you get the guy that has beer muscles, because he fundamentally, without the alcohol, self-regulates and doesn't feel, or, you know, feels less than to some degree. Now, it's not the same for everybody, but you can see how these things play like that.
Yes.
You know? And so, right, I mean, it could be any number of ways. All these, everybody's unique, but so you did mention this. Is this still go on? You mentioned prior to transplant that you had friends that work or hung out in a bar that you would go and sit with them, but not drink. Is that something that carried over to post-transplant?
Yeah, I can sit in a bar. If it's like morning time,
Yeah.
as old people that are, I love these guys. You know, you talk about what they used to do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I can sit and talk to people. They have good pizza. I go there for pizza
Yeah.
and talk to them for a while until it gets like you're saying, till people, like if it's 4 p.m. and all the after work people are showing up and the people are there to get drunk and I have to go. I'm not tempted to drink.
Right.
I don't want to be around it.
Right. I remember you used
But yeah, I can sit amongst drinkers. I can talk to them on the phone. It doesn't bother me. But there's like that certain point of drunkenness that everybody used to get.
Right.
Now you're annoying.
Yeah. Well, how much, and I'm not trying to build, for anybody out there, it sounds like I'm trying to build a little safe place for Troy to be around his drunken friends. Not what I'm doing, but I want to also draw the fact that there's a human nature to this too. Troy, I remember when we were living in Flagstaff, Arizona, way back in the early 90s, You used to go to Bill's, I think was the name of it. It was a bar right there at the corner where the train station or the train tracks were. I think it
Joe's
was
place.
Bill's place, right? And that's
Joe's.
exactly Joe's. You used to talk about that. You would go up because see in Arizona the bar would open like noon or 10 a.m. 10 a.m. And so you would go up there at like noon, and you didn't come home wasted drunk. So I'm not trying to say that you went up there and got sloppy, but you'd sit there and talk to those. You'd always talk about talking to the old guys, the old railroaders, and all this. And then you yourself ended up becoming a railroad engineer for years and years and years. So that's your. I remember you used to tell me at one point, like 20 years ago, one of your favorite things to do was to get off of the train in the early morning so you could have beer with your friends and have breakfast watching the sunrise and then go home to
Yes.
bed. Right? And that's just because it's a different time of day. People hear, oh my gosh, watching the sunrise. Well, what if you start work at 8 p.m.? And so again, so with yours it's also this familiar workplace and sort of blue collar, can do kind of, rough hands type of lifestyle, people working on a railroad and things like that.
I associated like railroading with alcohol. I mean, I could quit the railroad and not drink when I wasn't working for the railroad. Then I'd go back to the railroad and I was just like, let's party. And
So,
like even now, if I wake up early in the morning, I sit and watch the sunrise. I crave a beer at that time of day. I mean,
still,
I don't do it, but I was
right.
like, beer'd be nice about now.
Yeah. Well, see, and this is where the sort of gray areas when it comes to this kind of work, because there's also, in society, and now first off, in no way am I trying to say Troy and I were supposed to go back to doing these things, okay? But I'm just talking about people in general, okay? People in general. We're talking about substances. You could have a situation where it's a value added thing. So in other words, you're not there for the drinking. You're there because you're doing this other thing, and that just happens to happen, which is like the case with most people, as they would say, that, go out to dinner, have a glass of wine. Obviously, they're not there for the wine. They're there for the dinner and the friends. They had wine. And so in yours, it's kind of like that. Kind of like I have the same one but I have to be there. I have it every time I hear Tequila Sunrise, the song Tequila Sunrise. I remember of a day when I was in the service back in the late 80s, driving around outside of Fort Riley, Kansas. I don't know whose car I was in, but I remember I actually had tequila, like a bottle with me in the car, and I was driving around the countryside, and I drove into this little like area where there's some trees and like, farm stuff and all that, and the mist was coming up and it was dawn and that song came on, and it was like the perfect moment of that era for me, as far as, well, it's extremely reckless. I was drinking and driving and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, whenever I hear that song, it takes me back to that just utter freedom that I felt that day in 1986 or whatever it would have been,
Plus tequila sunrise, that was one of my favorite drinks.
Well, exactly, there's that. But then even when I was sick, I used to tell myself that when I was done, there was a couple of things I was going to allow myself to do. I was going to allow myself to go to California, to Napa Valley, to sit in one of those vineyards, to watch the sun go down over the Pacific Ocean, or however it does, having a glass of wine from that field, one glass, just to do it. And I also cleared myself that if I ever went to Scandinavia, I was going to go to some place that actually made mead, and I was going to have one, whatever it is, of mead. Just because of that being its thing. It's not for the alcohol itself. It's the whole picture. Now, whether or not I ever go to Napa Valley or I go to Iceland, who knows? And I'll let you know what happens when I get there. But,
I'd like to go to Iceland.
One condition I did put on myself after transplant with coming to Latin America, like I did, I've been here now for 5 years, was that I did want to continue to explore consciousness in a way that is being used as healing in other places. So I thought I heard my phone, I did go into work with the Taita, the shamans, and do the ayahuasca thing. And of course, this is not like a normal situation. This is not, I don't even like talking about it as a quote drug, but it is considered that, and it was a one-off type thing. It's the only time I've ever done that. That was back in like 2021, right, not too long after this whole thing started. And so, there's things like that. Now, my doctors, they knew I did that. I told them I was going to do that. They weren't fond of it. But now if I would have told them, and then we're going to the Jack Daniels distillery, now they would have said something about that. Then, I mean, the VA might just say, okay, fine, you're cut off of your meds. Good luck. I mean, that'd be that'd be a tough love way to do it. But
do you still do a blood test often?
once a year now.
Once a year?
Well, let's see, twice a year. It depends. Usually, yeah, I used to go back to the States every 6 months. The last couple of years, it's been once a year, and then maybe in the summer sometime. This past year, I did go back to the States for my daughter's high school graduation, and I had blood tests then. And I will be in Chicago with you, hopefully.
Christmas.
At Christmas, and I'll be going to the VA in Chicago, and they'll be doing the whole everything, even a cancer thing to see if, But the thing about this is that, yeah, I'm running around out here and I haven't been getting my blood tests. The doctors know this. I'm still in touch with them. I mean, they're obviously not thrilled, but every time I give my blood, my levels are just fine. They've got me on the base lowest amount of tacrolimus. That's okay. For people out there, there's tacrolimus and mycophenolate are two of, they're also called Choreograph and Silseth. They're two of the immunosuppressants that people get after a transplant. Troy, do you take either one of those?
Mine's called Invarsus.
Invarsus, I haven't heard of that
It's
one.
like a generic tacrolimus.
Okay, well, that's right. I think Choreograph might be I don't even know which one. Tacrolimus is probably the actual name. Choreograph is probably another generic name.
Yeah, I think it's tacrolimus.
Right. And I actually have right there a duffel bag full of meds. When I go to the States, in fact, they're being sent, right? Well, they'll be sent soon. I'll get this massive box sent to the house, and it has usually a full 6 month supply of all the meds that I need.
Oh, yeah.
And I've managed to, over the years, build up a reserve of that. So I've got I've got a whole backup set at my parents' house in Chicago. And I actually have, in addition to everything else, since I have the peripheral neuropathy, I get the really bad cramping. Without magnesium, I get about 36 hours before my body starts to shut down, and I will be...
Oh, you still take magnesium?
Oh, Troy, I have severe peripheral neuropathy. If I do not take my magnesium, after about 36 hours, I won't be able to walk. After maybe another 8 or 10 grueling hours of that. No, my body just locks up in these most ridiculous, my toes, I mean, every muscle, if you bend your leg forward, the ones that aren't being bent are cramping. It wakes me up every night because it's only a 6 hour window. I have to take 6 hours. So my alarm clock's built in 6 hours after I take that. After I go to bed, boom, I wake up with feet cramps. And I have to get out of bed. My ankles are all twisted and I have to hold onto the wall to get my ankles to be able to settle down so I'm not like breaking them because it feels like everything's all effed up. And then I have to walk and then other things start doing it, maybe your fingers, your hands. Yeah, peripheral neuropathy. That's what 25 years of hepatitis C will do to your nervous system.
That's from the hepatitis.
Right. I've also lost feeling in my toes on my left foot, and I will eventually lose feeling. The longest nerves die first. Lucky for me, I'm going to be turned 59 soon. If I was 30, I would be in a wheelchair by the time I die. Because I will have lost feeling in my ankles and legs, maybe all the way. And my fingers too will eventually start to go, but they're still there now. And at this stage in the game, Troy, 10 years, 15 years, wow, that's asking a lot. So I'm not really afraid of how far neuropathy is going to really get. It'll take it a couple 20 years or 25 years to really lose my feet. But yeah, so I have to take, and that's what I was about to say. I have a whole box of there's 400 in each one. I probably have 30. That's my backup magnesium kit. It's about 6 months of magnesium.
That's good. I know when they call me and ask me if I'm low on medication, I say yes every time.
I'll always get
Every
it.
time.
I always get it.
Because now I have because like when that COVID came through, there was a scare of medication. So that made me feel like I better have a lot in case that kind of thing happens again.
COVID, I left during COVID. COVID for me was a weird experience because, January 2019 is when I got transplanted. I spent the year recovering, blah, blah, blah. I get all the way back. I invested all of my money into a new phase of my .coms. I've been doing this almost 30 years now, working online. I invested everything in it, and it was a new web thing. And then COVID. And then my market was just saturated by counselors because counselors had offered telehealth. All of a sudden, everybody, that's what we were doing. We were offering telehealth. So it just blew everything. And remember, a year before that, I had $300 to my name when I got done with transplant. So I at this point, I didn't know what the heck I was going to do, so I literally started selling everything I owned. That's where I sold my Olympic guitar. Remember, it list price was $12,400, brand new.
Yeah, I was shocked when you did that. I about had a heart attack. What's he doing?
I still can't believe I did that. I sold the entire Jerry Garcia rig. Remember, I'd rebuilt the 1978 stage rig of Jerry Garcia.
Yep.
And all of it ended up, I mean, it was $50,000 worth of gear. I ended up selling it really quick for nowhere near that. Bought a plane ticket. I got my passport, and I did what I said I was going to do when I was sick. As soon as I lived through this, I'm leaving the United States, and I left. When my doctor started hearing in the spring of 2020 that I was selling all of my stuff and I was getting ready to leave, and I wasn't even going to have. I was trying to get down to 150 total items, including my toothbrush that I was selling at the time. They were not happy about that. But they also knew that there was nothing that they were going to be able to do to keep me from doing it, because that had been the way it had been for 9 years working, or only 2 years with doctors, because most of that time I was on my own when I was sick. But yeah, so I left during the pandemic. I mean, it was still like, in fact, the reason I went to Colombia is the first country it opened up. I wasn't even really certain where it was. I was kind of confused. Colombia, Cambodia. I didn't even think of Pablo Escobar until I landed in Medellin.
And like Iceland.
Well, that was the plan. I was planning on going. Well, remember, all right, we are babbling now, folks, but some more ancient history, if anybody made it this far. But if you go back and look on my Wind and Raven YouTube channel, which was the one I had at the time, there was a video that I put out on, I think it was like August 1st, 2020, saying, hey, everybody, I'm moving to Denmark. And I laid out all my plans on what I was going to do, right? As soon as my passport arrived. And then about the time I got done, I remembered, oh my God, Denmark's closed. It was not, I mean, it was probably still uploaded to YouTube when I realized I just looked like an idiot. so that started, and so I already knew my wife, and we weren't married at the time. And so she and I were talking, because she was planning on going to Bali. And I said, I'll try Bali. Let's both go there at the same time, we'll meet there, whatever. And then Bali closed. And then I remembered that she had said in a comment way back when I first started talking about all this, simply move to Colombia. And so that move to Colombia and Bali getting canceled ended up with me buying a ticket, the first flight out of Atlanta, Georgia to Colombia on October 1st, 2020. And I landed in Medellin. I went to Mexico for 2 different times for a while, but I've mostly been here since. So anyway, that's the way that cookie crumbled. And yeah, throughout the entire thing, I mean, I've been all over Mexico and not all over Mexico, but all over the Yucatan Peninsula and the whole area between Zipolite and Puerto Escondido and all that in Oaxaca, and then across Colombia, and numerous expat meetups. And I mean, it's funny. I think that if we hadn't gotten sick and we knew that you could like retire to someplace like Cozumel and live on the cheap, we both would have done it at age 40.
I might be heading there.
Well, now it's tempting though, because the thing is, if you move in with the expat community and you're single, well, I mean, it really shouldn't matter either way. But the lifestyle of the single expat guys is a little bit more risque, you might say. And I'm not trying to get into kind of weird stuff here. But I mean, mostly the guys that I've met, they're retired blue collar guys, right? Everyday guys, firemen from Wisconsin, former stock trader guy, maybe low level white collar. And they're here because it's inexpensive, and they have a good time, and they learn a language, and they get to know everybody, and they always have a good time. And so if you're around this crowd for too long, it's, again, you're hearing the same jokes. And I'm not trying to badmouth anybody. I should really shut up the way I say that. I mean, everybody has the right to choose their life their own way, but it's just not conducive, especially for somebody in liver recovery from transplant and sobriety. That can be a little tempting, but that's where, your willpower and determination for yourself, really, that's going to decide that one right there. All right, Troy, we're just literally doing this live and basically having, like we always do, is a conversation. I want to share something really fast with everybody, real fast, for those that made it. And the reason I wanted to say this is because Troy and I well, I have talked flippantly about it. Troy did a little bit. He said he even has the thing where he thinks about the beer in the morning. And I think it's a good reminder to all of us. And yes, I'm trying to figure out how to screen share here something, everybody, so give me a second. I saw this video clip the other day, and I took it and chopped it up, made it shorter. But you and I, we got to face the operating table / deathbed potentially. But look what happened in this situation. I want to share this and just remind everybody out there that when we are talking about drinking and driving and drugs and all these things, that it can go horribly wrong. To wit, let's see, is it sharing? Yes. All right, so I think it's sharing. I'm going to hit play. Hide this. Hopefully everybody can hear this.
Oh, that's bad.
Look at this guy. Watch this. All right, I think we got our point across. Yeah, so I saw this. Let me get this out of here. Stop the share. How do I stop sharing? Stop sharing? Yeah. Good. Wow. Now I said earlier that I was drinking and driving back in 1986 when I had that tequila sunrise moment. I got pulled over while I was intoxicated, but I never had them suspect me of drinking, oddly. And this all happened prior to 92. So there's not, I think 91, there was one time. Do you remember when I had a bunch of cats living in the truck with me?
I do, that old Plymouth truck.
Right. I had been on Grateful Dead tour, and I had a cat that had kittens on tour, and I had all the kittens now with me. And of course, I'm driving around this little hippie pickup truck with tie-dye curtains, and I look like what's the guy from the mountains? Grizzly Adams, right? I mean, my beard was out. I'd sleeping outside for a year. I was just back in Arizona coming off a fall tour. And I got in this weird race with a cop because I was on my way through downtown Prescott, and they were on the main road, and I was like one block in, and they'd seen me. So they were trying to get over, and so we were like going street to street. I could see him, and I was trying to figure out when I was going to try, and all of a sudden, boom, he gets like right behind me all of a sudden and pulls me over. And as he pulls me over, he comes around to the passenger side, and he says, "Can I open the door?" And I said, or somehow the door got open, and the kittens hopped out. And the kittens ran into a tree. And so the cop went into freaking panic mode. He's like, "Oh my God, get the kittens." He like grabbed the box that they were in off the floorboard in the truck. He's out there like grabbing these cats, and I'm wasted. Like, you know, I wasn't really, don't get me wrong, I never was like that. I mean, I had been drinking, yes, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I can drive, but I wasn't, I was probably laughing too. But by the time the smoke cleared from this, we got everything cleared back into the car. I'm in the driver's seat now, because I forgot exactly how I got back in the truck. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm on my way home." He goes, "Where do you live?" And we're in Copper Basin. And so I said, "Just, down and up Copper Basin." He goes, "Okay, drive straight there right now. I don't want to see you back out. Get these cats in the house."
The cat saved you.
The cat saved me. And I was fleeing. I was trying to, I think he probably thought I was having chaos with the cats or something,
Probably.
Yeah, so anyway, and I'm not trying to romanticize a funny thing, because I mean, I could have, obviously, this guy, what he did. Now, the video that we just watched, to fill in, so what had happened was, he tells the whole story. He and his friend were out driving around town doing stupid stuff, as he said. He wouldn't say what they were doing right before, but they got going really, really fast down this road, and something stupid happened. It caused him to swerve, and then that pole came right in and just took right out the passenger side. So he was fine, but his passenger was dead, and his passenger was also his best friend.
That's horrible.
And that's why he's crying like that. And the part, I sort of lost some of the flow, but they asked him, "Do you have any more questions?" And he says, "I've already asked the one, and you gave me the worst answer I could have ever heard." Yeah, that's them. And why don't we drive? Why don't we take the Uber home from the bar? It's too expensive, right? That's one thing I will share. I have a feeling that if I was still in my wild and woolly drinking days, I would be an Uber responsible whatever.
I can't believe I did that.
I know. I can't believe how many times I did that and got away with that. And this is my job now. I see hundreds of DUI people over the years, and I think of each one of them, I'm like, oh my God, compared to, gee, if I'd gotten pulled over that night, it'd be like, But again, I
Yeah,
am talking about a time that was a long time ago for me anyway, back in the
yeah,
early 90s.
long
But
time ago.
at any rate, but even then, I can't be completely honest with that because, how many times at UGA Sports over those years of going to sports bars and talking at Georgia Bulldog clubs and going to game day environments. I mean, there you're not, quote, wasted, but yes, there is drinking happening, even that. And all it takes is just two or so just to technically get a DUI. And all it takes is looking away from the wheel without any at all and kill somebody. So, I mean, that you're only complicating it by drinking. So,
I got pulled over on my way to work one time, and there was beer bottles on the floor of my passenger side. I shouldn't have been driving, yeah, let alone going to work. And then he let me go because I had out-of-state plates. And I told him I worked for the railroad. I could see the railroad yard, said right there. And he's like, well, I guess if you're going to work on the railroad, you wouldn't be drunk now, would you? I said, no, I'd lose my job. And he let me go. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, what's going to happen? You going to run off the road? No. Yeah, that's a scary one. I'm not even going to ask about if there's ever any time strains were happening because I don't want you to answer it.
No.
Yeah, just don't even go there. Yeah, so everybody out there listening, I hope you got something out of this. Troy, I'm not trying to run us off. I realize this is just like normal. I babble the most in these things. But I hope if you're still watching this, you get something out of it. I just want to really fast say it real fast about the channel itself. Troy and I are going to continue to do Gen X transplant stuff here. We're going to slowly start feeding it over to its own channel, as well as there's going to be some more news about that type of thing coming up after the beginning of the year. We're using this time between now and the beginning of the year to sort of get an idea of exactly how we want to format these things. We've got a couple of different playlists going right now. That's going to be cleaned up too. We're going to really figure out exactly which of these are going to be the main storylines. Remember, the underlying current throughout this entire thing is you have two brothers here, at least me being one of them. The channel is named after me, yes, but that's just because I have a bunch of other projects that Troy's not involved in that I would be talking about on here as well. But as far as Troy and I go, lifelong brothers. I don't ever remember him not being my brother. I don't really ever remember meeting you for the first time. Though we haven't really lived together a whole lot through that experience. The first 8 years of it, yes. But then after that, it's been sporadic. And to the point now, we haven't seen each other in almost 20 years. But we're hopefully going to change that at Christmas this year. And so, so Troy and I are going to continue to do this on here. We're going to have more. If I had my way, I'd be posting stuff every single day. I just don't know how many people out there want to hear it, but it is going to be coming. You're going to get more on the Grateful Dead. You're going to get more on the military. You're going to get more on what it's like being a remote worker for 30 years. Of course, you're going to get more about transplants. We have not talked about cancer. That's one that's specifically with me. I'll talk more about that on other videos. Troy hasn't talked a little bit about... We haven't shared stories about our band days. We will talk more about when we were in Enemy and other bands we played in, or musical interests like that. And then lastly, we also would like to talk more about Gen X life, growing up in the 70s and 80s. Troy, I see these things on Facebook. Click, it has like 100 things, or 10, 15 things. And it'd be like, enter one for every one that you've done. And it's like, drink out of a garden hose. Use a phone that has connected to the wall. See a lightning bug. And it's like, what are they talking about? It's just they're making it sound like we grew up in the Shire. I mean, it's like, this was some real stuff, and we really did have those things. And it wasn't neat. It wasn't anything other than normal.
It was life.
It was life. Exactly. I mean, yeah, you go over the handlebars on your bike and you get maybe stitches. That's how it happens. So, yeah, I mean, building ramps, all that stuff. I see these lists and I'm like, wow, they glamour. And another thing is, I wonder how many people have stolen valor going on. You know what stolen valor is, Troy? It's these people that either get out of the military or were never in the military, and then they claim to be doing all these other things. And the 101 is, the best one ever is when they say, I was in this unit that was so secretive that you're not going to find it on my military records. That's because I'm making it up, because there is no such a thing. Because why would Delta Force and everybody else have their records open? Anyway, that just is not a thing. Sorry, pal. Go back to your CIA movie.
Yeah.
But I'm also wondering, and sometimes you get that with veterans too. They'll be in as a cook or something, and not digging on the cooks, but next thing you know, they're Johnny 11 Bravo, like myself, an infantryman. And again, not blowing horns, but still, they become something they weren't. And I'm wondering how many people that are Gen Xers out there that talk about these things didn't really experience much of this at all.
Well,
How would that have happened?
can a military guy do stolen valor? Does
Oh
that
yeah.
happen?
Oh yeah, that happens. It's not as common, and usually the way that you'll see it is, and I'm not bagging on older folks because records and all this. You see a comment. For instance, there was a fire I think in like 1971 in like St. Louis or something, and it burned a lot of records, but not all of them. And so people always try to cite that. Well, I was in during Vietnam and I was in this crazy unit, whatever, but you won't find it because they burned in that fire. Well, that's a convenient excuse, but it was actually a very small amount that burned and was only in the United States Army. So if you mentioned you're a Navy SEAL, that would still be in there. And so, well, maybe not. Well, yeah, SEALs were about Vietnam, but you get my drift. If you're a force recon or
Those Native Americans that lived behind us on LaRue in Flagstaff, that guy claimed he was Vietnam recon, and his story didn't add up. His age didn't add up. He would have been
well,
our age during Vietnam.
Who knows? There was this one individual, maybe he'll watch. He is in Pereira, Colombia, and he knows people in the expat community. And he talks about serving in the fucking United States Army. He says that phrase constantly. And he just drips stolen valor. I started as a maintenance guy. Next thing you know, I got invited into this special thing. And next thing you know, this guy is like black ops, in like 4 years. And he's doing all these things. And of course, none of this have I ever heard of. None of these things. And he was in the Army. Okay, and now he's claiming to be combat arms. So here's that. He might have watched some videos. He knows what maybe an M203 was if he served in the 80s, or something like that. But his story was it reeked with stolen valor videos. And the way he kept saying the effing United States Army. And this is the kicker. He's from here. But he grew up, he was like born here, moved to like New England, and then served and then moved back. So he sounds like he's from up there, but he's definitely Colombian and speaks Spanish fluently because his folks, I guess, did. And so now he's just down here being this, I'm sort of a former guy from the U.S. I was in the fucking United States Army. And whatever. Yeah, so stolen valor happens all over the place.
That's sad.
That is sad. But and again, I'm not trying to say that anybody did really drink out of a garden hose as a cook. And I'm not banging on the cooks. They were the favorite people to see. I'd welcome them more than anybody else. But them and the engineers. But so that's all I got. Troy, you have anything else you want to add to our lovely audience that is liking and commenting and subscribing? Looking forward to our next live.
No, just stick around. A lot of stories being told.
Okay. We are going to start to make this make sense in 2026. We're just sort of filling the backfill right now. Okay, folks? So if you listen to all this, thank you for being here, and we'll do another live. We'll schedule it at some point. There'll be videos coming up this week as usual. You'll see some shorts too, sort of lurking on some of this behind the scenes. Again, we're not investing in any of this right now. We're doing this on a shoestring budget on an old laptop, and so we're just going to take it as we go. Okay. So Troy, I got to get this guy off the screen. I still got this guy in this hospital bed up here. Oof. Get away. There we are now. Okay. All right. So that's it. Troy, you got anything else? That's it?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, brother. And I will catch up with you later. And for all of you out there, thank you for being here. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Let us know what you think down below about any of these things. Did you really have a Gen X experience? Did you really drink out of a garden hose? Did you ever catch lightning bugs in a jar? Did you ever go out and get night crawlers after it rained by putting your thumb on the dirt so you could get them in time with the other hand before they go into the ground? So you can then go fishing?
You watch the street lights come on after home.
Do you remember the cans of the worms? When you have so many, they get slimy in there. You put them in the coffee can? Ooh. Yeah. No, I don't remember that part. So, that was after you started drinking, probably.
The tequila worm, right?
Oh, no, there we go. Okay, yeah, don't do the worm. I'll tell you my Scorpio story someday. I swallowed a Scorpio a few years ago on Dare that was marginal activity. I'll tell you about that next time, folks. That is bad. He went down face first, too. Yeah. All right. We are out of here. I'm going to hit stop on this. Thank you again, everybody. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, keep on trucking, man.